Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. In today's video, I want to talk to you today about coming into agreement with the spouse who God has chosen for you. Amos chapter 3, verse 3, it talks about can two walk together except they be agreed. And I want to bring this to your attention today because for some of you, you don't like who God chose for you. You still on the fence regarding this particular person being your spouse. Um, when you communicate and talk about your God ordained spouse, you say things such as supposed to be God ordained spouse, or you back and forth and you say, I don't know, maybe I heard God wrong. I need another confirmation, right? etc., etc. And so I got to bring this to your attention because scriptures say this is a law, this is a spiritual law. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Because you're on the fence, you're up and down, you're back and forth, you're wavering in the minds, right? You're not coming into agreement with what God said, which is delaying your God ordained love story. Okay. So I understand, you don't understand why God would choose a spouse, that's showing up this way for you. But when you understand prodigal behavior, and when you also get understanding around God didn't choose the prodigal, he chose, the version of your spouse once God restores them. That's the spouse God has chosen for you, right? But when you understand this, right, and you come into agreement with what God said and who God has chosen for you, then will you see this love story begin to move forward by faith, okay? Because God can't do anything, without our faith, without our belief in Him and trust in God, right? So establishing agreement, it's the first step in this process. When we talk about, just moving this God ordained love story forward, okay? We got to get off the fence. We got to stop, we got to become aware of our language when we are speaking of our God ordained prodigal spouse, okay? And come into agreement with this is the person who God has chosen for me. I'm coming into agreement with it because I'm agreeing with what God said, which means now I'm walking by faith, which also means I'm partnering with God and moving this love story together. Now, I want to talk to you about how do you build the belief in what God said? Because I believe that's another, piece to this puzzle that's causing some of you to be wavering or even doubting that this person is your spouse because you lacking the belief that God can do this for you, that God even chose this person for you. You have a fear that I might be standing for the wrong individual. Here's the thing, like I said, we got to come into agreement with what God said. Once we come into agreement with what God said, now it's all about building the belief in God. Okay. So here's how you build the belief in what God said. Number one, you want to write down all of your dreams that God has given you concerning you and your God ordained spouse. And here's the thing, God wouldn't be giving you these dreams if God didn't choose this particular person to be your spouse. He's giving you the dreams because number one, he might be revealing the enemy in operation in your life, in your spouse's life, and in this God ordained marriage story. And so God wants you to pray against it, right? you know and God will also give you dreams showing you that your spouse is proposing to you. So God wouldn't speak this way or even give you these dreams if what he said was false. Okay, so we want to write down all the dreams and visions God has given to you. Okay, number two, confirmation. List out all the ways God has confirmed that this particular person is your spouse. Maybe you see your spouse name everywhere. Maybe God is speaking to you through numbers concerning your spouse. Whatever the case may be, you want to make a list of all the confirmation God has given to you because God has given you these confirmations so that you can now come into agreement with what God said. Okay. The third way how we build a belief in God and what God said concerning our spouse is evidence. So as you pray, what evidence is God showing to you? Did God reveal to you how he removed the counterfeit? Did God send your spouse back to apologize to you? You want to begin to make a list of all the evidence that God is showing and revealing to you because he's moving according to your prayers, which also means this is your spouse. Okay. So make a list of all the evidence God is revealing to you. Evidence can also show up as false start. Okay, it's not a false start, it was evidence. Okay, and it wasn't the appointed time for this love story to come together. All right, number 4, removal of counterfeits is another way how we build the belief in what God said. God is removing these counterfeits because they try to sit in your seat. And so God said, I'm going to fight on your behalf, daughter or son. I'm fighting on your behalf. I'm removing, these counterfeits out of your seat, because this is your seat that God has chosen for you to sit in, right? So this is why God is moving on your behalf. The 5th way how we build the belief in God is when your spouse begin to identify you as their spouse, okay? And this might take a little time, but for those of you whose spouse has already identified you to be their husband or wife, that's another confirmation. That's another, way how we begin to build a belief in what God said and who God has chosen for us. Another way is by looking at how the enemy is attacking your God-ordained marriage. The enemy won't waste his time if you was with a counterfeit. So the fact that your family, your friends, everyone that you know and talk to about this love story, the way how they are causing you to doubt and trying to have you second guess your God, those are clear indicators that you are standing for the right person. This is your God ordained marriage season, and the enemy is trying to throw you off track. The way how the enemy is doing witchcraft on you and your spouse, these are clues and signs that's telling you that you are on the right path. You are standing for the right spouse, and this is your God ordained love story. Okay, so listen, like I said, we got to come into agreement with what God says so that God can begin to work on our behalf. Okay, so let's stop with the back and forth, up and down. Let's get clear on the language we are choosing and using when we speak about our God ordained spouse. No more will you say, this supposed to be. No. Come into agreement with it. This is my God ordained husband. This is my God ordained wife. Just claim it. Step into it. All right. So that is it. I am Tequila Coleman. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a positive comment. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.